Good morning and welcome to episode 50, 3,803 days until I'm 40. And today's topic is change. I'm going to be pretty random about this, but most recently I've been observing change from multiple angles. Um, yes, you want to be part of the video? And one is just in my practices and my daily practices and my commitments and how that impacts my life. Two is change and volatility in industry, particularly in the Bitcoin space, and more physiologically, just and how sugar impacts my body. So I'll start with that actually. So yesterday, like it's the fasting month, Ramadan and fasting, and yesterday I had a lot of sugar compared to most of the other days. Yesterday I had a lot of sugar, and I it's I had it like as the first thing I had to break my fast, and I very actively noticed like how it felt really good. And then there was a sugar crash after where I started getting annoyed and just being aware of that. Um, I was like, "Well, I had a lot of sugar today. Why am I getting annoyed?" But it was because of the sugar crash. It's already gone spiked up and down, and apparently that sharp declines in sugar from wherever caused that irritability. And it also, with sugars and carbs, they a lot more water. I needed a lot more water. I got really thirsty. And then as I slept and woke up in the morning, I still like not good. So I think no more than a date when breaking the fast in the future. And, one is just knowing it. One is just knowing something that this is what sugar does. This is what happens. And the other is actually like experiencing it and like experiencing it in the extreme. Again, I'm sure people have gone through more extremes. And really thinking, oh, you know what, this needs to change, and that's what I'm going to change. And from there, also coming to Bitcoin, very big transition, but it's interesting to see perspectives and approaches to uh, Bitcoin, whether it's mining, Bitcoin business, just buying and holding Bitcoin, how perspectives have been shifting. I had like a, it's, and I, Mine go in different places, but one I've seen, I like to go in Ubers and ask people like, or even when traveling, just random people. It's like, hey, it comes to like, what do you do? What are you working in? And then I first asked them like, hey, what's your overall sentiment, like positive, negative, or neutral about Bitcoin? Most of the response that I got was negative, although I had a very interesting conversation with someone who was like very further left on his political ideas, and he was like, I was rather negative, but I'm starting to see it as like freedom money, as like, and as a way to be, to, have my own sovereignty from a more right wing government. Fascinating to me. I just listened to that. And I would like to actually see more like Democrats for Bitcoin, or just like see more and more people seeing Bitcoin as freedom money. Um, People saw gold that way as well, until it was confiscated and like stored in singular places. And many of the same things can happen to Bitcoin as well, actually. And that's a topic of conversation that comes up in groups that we engage in. And among those is like, that's part of why like people are afraid of like financialization in Bitcoin, or or even just Bitcoin lending as a thing. But speaking to miners and exchanges, there's a clear need for like there's a clear difference in liquidity needs. And it's very common practice in like in traditional mining, right? Like in gold ore mining and diamond mining, oil mining, just other commodities like that. Um, it's very common that they'll have like hedging tools, like financial tools that help them kind of even out the cash flows, even out the profits, because you have to invest a lot of time and energy to extract and extract, refine, and then sell. So like for a long time you'll have negative cash flow, and then all of a sudden a lot of positive cash flow. Very similar actually with Bitcoin. And volatility, just like sugar spikes, is very stressful on any organization, uh, human organization. So Bitcoin lending or Bitcoin futures are tools that people use. And I think coming up, we're going to see a melding of the two, Bitcoin lending and futures, into a Bitcoin bond. And a very interesting article, actually, I read about this. I don't know if I can put this into, I think we can put it here. Add, is that show? Yeah, there. Okay. That's a terrible way to put it there. But that website, gsr.io, um, the future of Bitcoin mining and finance. And this is not just this is not just like this is specifically applicable to mining, but it's not just applicable to mining. I think there's a lot of others, like even exchanges, for example, where they see when there's like a sudden rush of demand for Bitcoin, like a huge outflow of Bitcoin, ETFs as well. And I think we're going to see of more and more hedging tools being used to help stabilize the price, which in general, in my opinion, is actually good for Bitcoin. I think it's still pretty early. I think there's another 10 years for it to go to really establish itself as like a place where people do business. And tools are going to be necessary to achieve that stability. You do need stability when you're doing business with a certain currency or commodity. And interestingly, like there's it's not new, right? There's been lending happening against Bitcoin for a while already, and in different forms, like where they'll take custody. Some of them have failed, like Celsius and BlockFi, and it's made people wary. And you really want good technology and tools that help to secure and maintain security of your Bitcoin that is held in escrow or sold or that's lent against. Um, and on the other spectrum, like there's sometimes it's just unsecured loans or like loans secured against equipment in Bitcoin mining companies, and those depreciate really fast. Plus, they are exposed to like energy shocks, political shocks, even in different countries if they're like a more nation based miner, and they have like special deals with the government for energy security and stuff. So there's a whole spectrum there, and I think in the past 5 years, people were not entirely sure. It's like, oh, is Bitcoin gonna be a thing? Like, I kind of like the idea, but I'm gonna lend against it. But I need like a huge buffer I need it to be liquidated. I need if the price starts dropping really fast, I need the Bitcoin sell it and get my cash back. Like that's been the mentality. But I think that's actually also very quickly shifting, and overall rates and like the terms are extending, like from like just a few months to much longer terms. The rates that people are charging, the interest rates are also falling. And looking at it from like a real world asset angle, from having tried to do like raise funds to do car finance and then return give returns in the monthly payments that come through, I'm starting to realize like, oh, there's like a shift in sentiment and people, well, at least how people see Bitcoin, right? And they're starting to see that it's here to stay, and generally the trajectory truly is up because of its verifiably limited supply. Um, if I can make 12 to 14% lending against this versus like investing in a car that someone it depreciates, someone may or may not pay, that's the safer bet. Lending against Bitcoin is actually the safer bet, and it doesn't even need to be liquidated because I'm thinking, what, I actually do believe in this idea that Bitcoin's going to continue accruing value over time, which ironically, I actually puts like tokenization of real assets on the back burner, on the backseat. I think everyone was excited about the real world assets taking off this year. And however, everything has started to pale in comparison to Bitcoin, especially with programmability, layer two technologies, and assets on Bitcoin being developed. Everything else that people were excited about is taking a backseat, and it's like, hey, let's really start unlocking the capabilities in Bitcoin and serving this collateral asset, like prime collateral asset. because it has out for like even for other alternative cryptocurrencies and tokens, it has outperformed all of them. And we're gonna have to wait till the next cycle, so probably another 3, 4 years from now, when we're actually gonna see when we're actually gonna see real world assets come back onto the blockchain. In some ways, it's like a, you know, one step back, two steps forward kind of idea, I think. But that's the change or transformation that I experience in conversation with people in the market. Um, I feel like I was going to talk about a third one, but we're already way over time. I shall continue again tomorrow. Thank you.